Hey guys, as you may or may not know, it is currently Thursday, December 8th, 2011, and this is Day 9 Daily number 384. Per usual, I am in an incredibly good mood. In yesterday's daily, I proposed the following challenge. Get my mother addicted to Ghost in the Shell, the standalone complex. It took me one episode. Oh! Boom! And by the way, guys, here's my knees. That's right, because it's laundry day. Because what I did is I said, well, they only really ever see me from here up, so I can just wear the collared shirts. But, yeah, it's laundry day, so that's when we get, like, the running shorts out. Yeah, I got, like, the running shoes on. Why not? You know what? Why not? I don't give a damn. And now that we've established that, this is all you're ever going to see. Appropriate, professional, chic Day 9. I'll even put one more button on the top for the sake of professionalism. This is far harder than it should be. Don't I just look dorky? Yeah, let's undo that. In very exciting news, I'm going to continually announce the Funday Monday topic at the start of the daily. The champion Funday Monday. Submit to me a game of you playing a 4v4 where one of you is the champion. He may never have more than 20 workers at any point in the game. The other 3 are the support crew for the champion, and they may never have more than 20 supply in army. Therefore, the support team is feeding money to the champion, who must win the 4v4 with his brute force army. Submit it to Monday at day9.tv. Excuse me. That coffee's trying to rebel and come back up. I feel like there's something else that I should need to say, but I don't. I guess the only announcement I'd like to make is that I was recently playing Earth Defense Force 2017, and it's just as awesome the first many times I played through it. What an awesome thing. Now let's talk about today's fun-filled, wubulous, wonderful topic, and it's about something that I call key points in the game, key moments. In general, games are won and lost by like 1 to 3 big deals that occurred in the game. Now, I know a lot of you are probably thinking something like, well, I was a platinum and I played against a master level player and he just built more workers than I did, his macro is better, all that sort of stuff. I want to separate out the idea of key moments with just stuff that you can do better, period. Stuff that you can do better, period, is something that relies on no interaction between you and the other guy. For instance, let us say that you are just bad at building probes. You could find that out just playing against the AI. Or, hell, playing by yourself with no one else there. We're going to put that in another little bucket over here, right? Shove that over here. The other thing is the key moments, which has a lot to do with interaction, or it's interactions that you should have had that you didn't. Let's take that abstract statement and make it specific. So a key moment that involved an interaction. Perhaps there was an engagement, or perhaps he had an expansion, and you said, I think I can attack and kill that off. You rush all your units in, you lose almost all of them, doing no damage, and you decide to retreat. And at that point, you are very far behind in the game. It's something like that you would look at and go, oh, I lost because I shouldn't have done this attack, right? There's the interaction that you didn't have that you should have would be something, for instance, like if you never expanded ever, and your opponent expanded, and you should have maybe attacked to do some damage. You should have expanded yourself. There's that sort of economic interaction going on. That sort of thing. Where the basic idea is, let's assume that our macro is good. Let's assume that our probe production is good. Let's assume that all those basic sort of things are getting fleshed out. Why the hell did we win? And why the hell did we lose? In general, at these key moments, there won't really be that many of them. In fact, the higher and higher and up you go, the fewer and fewer there will be. Just because the instant someone gets an advantage, whomp, he wins. But in terms of this key moment analysis, what we're going to do is we're going to look at 3 Protoss versus Protosses today. The last 2 are going to be LiquidHerO games. We're going to look at those in parts 2 and 3. The first one is going to be just one of the absolutely most hilarious games I've ever seen. So we're going to begin the daily with some sort of fun entertainment. Just watch this game, laugh our asses off, have a good time. I hope my friend Tristan doesn't mind that I'm showing this game on the daily. Shh, it's a secret. And then what we're going to do is we're going to touch on this idea of key moment analysis. In other words, we're going to look at 4 or 5 significant interactions where we either fell behind or got more ahead. Last thing I want to say before we get started, it doesn't just have to be we're even and then we're uneven again. Obviously, this sort of thing, when we go from even to uneven, that was like a key moment. Something went on there. Why the hell did that happen? But also the other thing that I want to throw out there is if you're behind and you end up coming back ahead, that's another thing that I want to examine. So we're going to look at these key moments and say, are we ahead or behind before the moment? Are we ahead or behind after the moment? And it's important to do both of those things. We'll see a lot of this come into play. Now we're going to watch the ugliest game of all time. This is Flickska, or whatever it is. This is my good friend Tristan, who has a regular habit of pretty much always getting into the ugliest games of all time and managing to find a way to win. Tristan never plays pretty games. Tristan likes to... he's not your player who will play Flickska with Dick PvP or something like that. Tristan is not your player who will mass grind out one strategy. He likes sort of dabbling around. He's sort of recreationally competitive. He's like a mid to high masters level player, but he'll see a strategy on GSL and just try it the next day. And then he'll see another strategy on White Raw's stream and just do that the next day. Just enjoys sort of like fiddling with strategies, trying stuff out, exploring. Never really going to try to go pro or anything like that, which I think is inadequate representation of your average bear. They end up with, oh my gosh, even timings on the gateway. Probe ends up scouting into his base. At this point in time, I will come back to the topic of the day, which is this key moment analysis. Are there any sort of big key moments? If, for instance, one of these players forgot to build a cybernetics core and was like 40 seconds behind, what would end up happening? Let's just do some theorizing in a second. Let's say I forgot to build my cybernetics core and I was way behind on my core. What happens? He gets his warp gate finished, and all of a sudden, later on in the game, we would see, oh, his warp gates are finished. We get in a battle. He pulls way ahead because he gets his warp gates done. Our food counts were pretty even. Things were looking pretty even. This ended up happening, and then afterwards we looked screwed. Notice the key moment where things got uneven, that was during the warp gate battle. It wasn't necessarily all the way back when this cybernetics core started. Or let me rephrase that. The key moment was when his warp gate finished and did all the damage. We may not have noticed this with the warp gate timing being off in the first place. That's why we do this sort of analysis. We say, man, this thing happened. How do I prevent that? Oh, I come all the way back here to the start of the game and fix this one issue. That's why we kind of end up doing it. Here we go. So we're already starting to notice a little bit of difference. It looks like Tristan is not getting out a first Zealot. He's instead chrono boosting the Stalker. Wants to get his little Stalkers out. Looks like his opponent will have a single Stalker. And I don't want you to get too over-eager at this point in time about identifying key moments, right? I don't want you to think about that yet. For the most part, we're just sort of enjoying a typical PvP. And we're just going to enjoy ourselves a good time. And then we're going to come back after the fact and poke through this game. Ooh, looks like a Warp Prism at 4-gate. Tristan, he's going to be moving forward with all his Stalkers. He even has a pylon up here. Oh no, oh, his opponent built a pylon right in his base and he didn't see it. Okay. So Tristan tries to poke, it's unsuccessful, he's unable to snipe the sentry. The Warp Prism pops out, and the Warp Prism plus the Warp Pylon in the base is kind of redundant. So Tristan ends up losing a lot, but fortunately Tristan has more units at his front. And then this happens, so that does help Tristan quite a bit. Alright, now I just want you to keep in your head when the big interactions happen. This is a big interaction, Warp Prism dying is a big interaction. Alright, woo! Woo! So, because this player realizes that he's kind of going to die, ends up trying to send his probes out to do a little action. Tristan pulls his probes quite a ways earlier. Oh, look at that great interception. We have ourselves, I guess, what I would describe as a pretty typical PvP. Tristan is Mantra in this game, for any of you who don't know. Traditional PvP, where the base trades do occur. We do see that Tristan is overall ahead. He has way more probes. But we do see that Flixka has the ability to warp in some more zealots. So he does that. Tristan cleverly, completely, and totally forgets about this one zealot. I don't really know how on earth this happens, but, you know, look at him. He's just hanging out there. So right now, the income is nothing for both players. Excellent. Let's go ahead and open up the units tab. Good, and then he's moving in for the kill, trying to micro as best he can. At this point in time, Tristan's losing all of his probes at a rapid pace, and Tristan realizes, hey, I have 6 stalkers, you have 5. If I can kill off your stalkers, I can just infinitely scoot and shoot versus your zealots and win. So he starts trying to do that with relatively low success. Or he loses another stalker for nothing. Not the most optimal micro in the world. Alright. So Tristan's pulling back, and then Tristan finds out, oh yeah, I have a zealot here. Oh, this game is so good. Oh, this game is just the greatest thing of all time. Alright, here we go. Alright, he's trying to kill off his opponent's stalkers. I'll just turn all these healths on. Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. Tristan, just kill the stalker! Oh! And then, boom, they both die off. So, okay, so sweet. So, again, the ugliest game that has ever been seen. Okay, so Tristan now is going to take this zealot. He's going to retreat. His zealot is weaker. His opponent's zealot has 69 health, so here we go. That's right, this is about as mere matchup-y as we can get. But Tristan does have this extra probe. But he realizes that he can't engage. The opponent gives a very appropriate LOL. Tristan is not quite sure what his goal is. So he calmly goes back to building a probe. Excellent. Alright. Alright, so moving in. Oh, yep, he just did a loop with his probe, and now he's going to head all the way back home. You'll notice shields do heal quite quickly. Tristan is continuing to build probes. Interestingly, being conservative with that chrono boost. We don't know if we want to spend this perhaps on an upgrade later once we get our raging economy going. And again, a very appropriate lull from Flixka. The micro ensues, and with his staggering 3-probe army and 1 zealot. Keep in mind, Tristan's zealot is weaker, and Tristan engages horribly at first and actually whiffs and is taking extra damage. And the final engagement. Was that not amazing? Look at that. Look at that. Is that not a real match? Is that not a real match? Is it Monday? What day is it today? Is this Monday? What happened? Right? I would just like to say for the record, I have like hundreds of these kinds of games from Tristan. And every time I like get done with my workday and I open up my personal email, I'll have an email from Tristan, and the title will be, it'll have no body to the paragraph or to the email. There'll be one attached replay, and the title will be like PvP told by Tristan Brand in a story both comic and tragic. And I'll be like, oh, cool, excellent. So that is the greatest thing that has ever happened to me. Tons of those kinds of games. Now, let's take a moment to step back from our enjoyment and everything. And let's try to do some learning. These kinds of games are the games where your brain will not quite fire correctly in the analysis, right? They will not quite look back at that game and go, what could I have done better? Your brain will go, want to see a PvP? And then you'll send it to every person you've ever met. But what I want to do that's so absolutely critically important is the idea of, again, key moment analysis. When were the big interactions in the game? And let's write them down. Let's actually, you know what? I'm just going to open up my biggest friend, Notepad, not Google Docs, because Notepad is way easier. All's good, all's well that end well. Oh, that was perfect. Oh, I hope that all picked up. Let's come back to this game and let's try to think of when some of those key moments were. Now, if I come, for instance, to... let's actually zoom in a little bit to a time like this, where Tristan is actually going for 2 gateways as an opening, with an eventual 3rd gateway. And what's the opponent doing? The opponent's going for a robotics facility. This is, I think, the mistake that many folk will do, is at a time like right now, they will start trying to do some thinking. They'll start saying things like, well, I went for a 3-gate, and he went for, a fast robo. I guess that means his immortals will blah, blah, blah. They'll think about when I could attack, when I could defend, and all this stuff. But notice, we haven't done any interaction. We have not interacted in the slightest. In fact, we hardly even know what the other person's doing. So, I don't want you to begin your analysis here. We may find one of these key moments, find out we have a problem, and the root may be in our original build order, but let's use our interactions to help guide us. So, first big interaction. We can just start writing down all the interactions we thought were big. So here is the most notable one. The first most notable one. Again, you might think this is, oh wow, we should really definitely, this is definitely going to be big. Wait till the warp-in happens. Wait till that occurs to really begin doing your dictating. So here we end up poking up, and we ended up suddenly losing a stalker. So we lost a stalker. Now, I want you to just watch how easy this analysis is. Did we kill anything off? No. Did we really do much damage? Well, not really. Okay, so were we ahead or behind before this happened? Right? Well, I mean, in ways we look pretty even. I mean, you kind of fudge the analysis, but for the most part, it's pretty even. You don't really have to obsess about these sorts of numbers, even though I brought them up. And then you just say something like, I took a loss and got no gain. That was pretty negative for me, right? There you go, ladies and gentlemen. We have found first big interaction, the first key moment of analysis. We lost a stalker when we pushed with 3. And what I want you to do with these key moments is I want you to try to find out, I want you to try to just list out all the big interactions. I listed out this first interaction because it's easy. And then after you end up identifying that, you would say to yourself something like, do we want to do this 3-stalker push? Is there a way we could have readjusted this 3-stalker push? Are there build orders where this works and build orders where it doesn't? We have a point of discussion, at the very least. So, this ends up happening, and this is a very, very easy thing. We got stuff warped in our base. Alright, cool. See how easy this is? This game is pretty fun, but we're going to get in the habit of just identifying some big key interactions. We got stuff warped in our base. This is obviously bad, so we can have a solution being scout our base for pylons. And we'll end up fleshing this out just a tidbit more before the end of the break. Another big interaction that we ended up seeing was when this warp prism just decided to fly directly down the ramp. Now, I cannot explain why our opponent did this. It looks like just a clear misclick. And I want to note what we already have right now. We have these 3 things, and I'm going to label them as 1, 2, and 3. This is a hilarious loss for Red, Flixka. This was a hilarious loss for Mantra, who's my friend. This seems pretty damn normal. I want you to just look at how different each of these 3 feel in terms of interaction. We lost our warp prism. Be more careful with warp prism control. Perhaps we can do something like fix our hotkeys. watch the mini-map more. I mean, this is a pretty straightforward solution. I would probably try to figure out what the core issue was there. We can even attempt to run through it really quickly. Was this even hotkeyed? This guy didn't. He actually did not have this hotkeyed at all. Yeah, so you know what? I might say to him, fix our hotkeys. And cool, we've just suddenly prevented this sort of thing from happening. Again, notice how we go one more step. We don't just say we lost our warp prism. We don't go, better not do that, right? Better not do that. No, we want to instead say, fix our hotkeys for warp prism. We want to make it an action item. Stuff got warped in our base. Now, you might say, scout base. This is not good enough. We don't actually want to do that. We want to say scout base at what time? Suddenly, this is a control issue. This is a scout our base at what time issue. This is a timing issue. This is a strategy issue. When does this work? When does this not work? When does... did I miss control? What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put a certain number of stars next to each of these. Or certain... I'm going to put like a rating here. Like the severity of having this happen is huge. Ease of fix is easy, right? This is a very easy problem to solve that ends up being a really big problem for this. The severity of this ends up being, I would say, decently big. It's not absolutely as earth-shatteringly gigantic as this is, but it's decently big. Ease of fix, easy. These sorts of key moments, the one at the top, the severity of this happening is kind of small, maybe medium, right? I'll just put it like a small-ish. Ease of fix, though, might be a little bit difficult to figure out because we have this variety of questions that are going on. The important thing is that when you start getting better, when you're at a level like this where, you know, sometimes funky things happen, even this sometimes happens in large tournaments, but there comes a point where you will only have stuff like this. These two huge issues of losing these things don't even happen. This does. So what I want you to get in the habit of doing is just writing down all these interactions, seeing how they go, or at least, at the very least, mentally noting them. Because in games, even in a game as crazy as this, I can only really think of one more big interaction in this game. Right? I mean, they're killing each other's bases. I think we could zoom in on the fact that Tristan pulled his probes early and his opponent did not. But the other big interaction that I could foresee was this fight right here. I mean, if we actually just look at, you know, how many units ended up dying here, it was a lot for Tristan and kind of a lot for this guy. Let's actually just look. Right now, their units lost differs by 500. We did the before analysis, they differed by 500. And afterwards, they differed by 100. Tristan very clearly got the worst end of that deal. So again, we would come back and we would think, okay, that was a key moment. How do I improve just that? So now we have these different moments in time where change occurred and who had the lead and who didn't. And we have some solutions to make sure that the change is always positive in our direction. It may be something as simple as we attacked when we shouldn't have. We lost a warp prism because our control was not good enough. And it may be things that are more subtle, like I should attack here half the time depending on his strategy. So what we're going to do is after the break, we're going to take a look at some of LiquidHerO's games, and we're going to identify some big key moments as practice, and we're going to talk about them. So don't go anywhere. Part number 2 coming up after this. Yahoo! And also, if you're studying for finals, thanks for taking the break and hanging out with me.